I'm Tony Regisford, and you're watching IKTV. This is our week's edition of Unrendered, and I'm chatting with Professor McDonald from the open campus of the University of the West Indies. Professor, and I said open campus, and we're going to get there.
Yes, that's fine.
But let's just spend a little time talking about this new phenomenon, the message of instant messaging, the language of instant messaging, that's more or less creeping into at least the written form of expression.
Yes. Well, should I start with a joke?
Yes,
My
sure.
son he sent me a text at some point, and sent me a message and so on. And he put LOL.
Yes.
And I said, oh, my goodness, he's sending me lots of
Lots
love.
of love, right.
Well, of course, when I told him, oh, you what happened? You thought of your mom this morning? He says, laugh out loud, Mom. That's what I meant. So there was I saying, oh, laugh out loud. But I learned something.
Right.
So laugh out loud. And then, of course, there's just the use of the capital letter RU,
Right.
rather than use ARE, you use
Yes.
R and so on.
Right.
Well, it's this. The young people find ways to communicate and communicate quickly, because the technology is driving us more towards speed in every aspect that you can think of. So some of them really pride themselves on how many words they can text in a minute. So that thrust towards capturing a message in the least possible time leads to these abbreviations that we talk about.
Right.
A couple of studies have been done on that kind of language, and it is the language of the text now, of the texting system, the language of the SMS and so on.
Not to stop you, but are you seeing that creeping into written text, at university level, secondary school level?
In a couple of essays, yes, I have heard colleagues talk about students using that in their essays. But it's a simple matter. It's like the differences between varieties.
Yes.
We will have as many varieties as we have people creating language. That's what we do as human beings. This creative aspect of language is something that will never end. So if we went to live in on an island away from people for a long time, we would probably find our whole language systems changing.
Yeah.
The technology is bringing about a change in terms of the language that's used with the apps that the young people have.
Right.
And they're smart, they're quick, and the technology is helping them to do certain things differently. Again, it's a matter of saying, look, we use language for different purposes, and we use varieties of language for different purposes. So right there in secondary school, if they're using the language for texting, it's okay. They need to know it's fine. They don't have to be stilted and try to write every word like I still do, because I haven't yet captured the language of the text in every regard.
Yes.
But when you write me an essay, which is for the purpose of writing a CXA exam, you must remember that it's not a text message. That what the examiner wants to see, what your teacher wants to see, is an essay in which you use a sentence properly, not an abbreviated sentence, not an abbreviated word. And that awareness helps them to know of the appropriateness of context and occasion for the use of a variety. So that if I go, so that it's okay, I guess, if you wanted me to speak dialect, I would on this program. But I suspect you need it for a wider audience, and we're using English.
So
which
something
most
standard,
people
which you think most people would understand.
So if I broke into French Creole, it would not be appropriate for the context.
Yes.
Because I'm in St. Vincent.
Yes.
Creole speakers, no.
Right.
So one of the important parts of educating people about language in general, not just English, but language, and what is language about, and how do humans use language, is to know about the time, the place, the appropriateness, the context for which variety I will use. And that goes for speaking when you're with an interlocutor,
Yes.
or when you're talking in a group and you're making a presentation
Yes.
for a purpose, or when you're asked to give a big speech because you have some visitors coming in from abroad and you're presenting your country in a way.
Yes.
You are asked to choose differently, and it doesn't mean that in that presentation you may not, for purposes of color and so on, show a little bit of what your local variety might be, or maybe you're giving it in your total local variety because of your...
It's a question of sensing the appropriateness of what is required.
Exactly,
really.
exactly. And
And
that's
of course,
part
but
of
you
the
must
education.
have the skills, though. You must have the skills
Right.
to rise to that occasion.
Right.
Because if you don't, then you'll be caught wanting.
Yes, it's the same thing. Like if we're speaking now in what I would say is a register that is fairly formal, but not. It's still casual in a way.
Right.
But if I came to you and I said, yeah, man, you know how this thing goes and so on, you know, a real extreme casual thing, like I would meet my friend on the block and I say, hey, you hear what I'm saying and so on.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate for this particular conversation. So even if you're speaking the same language, you have to know, okay, the person I'm speaking to, I wouldn't go up to my Governor General and say, hey, what are you doing, you know? But if she's my friend,
You'll do
but
Yes.
and we meet and she would say to me, hey girl, what you doing? And I say, hey, how are you doing? That's very, very casual.
Yeah.
But in a context where people are around, I would say, you know, how do you do, ma'am, Your Excellency, blah, blah. It's the same thing. You have varieties of English and you switch to those. That's part of learning the language in school. All the curriculum has to deal with that when you're talking about using language for cognitive academic proficiency, different from basic interpersonal communication skills, which allows us to speak to each other in any way.
Professor, I can tell that this topic, you're so at home with this.
I love it.
We can go on forever and ever.
It's true.
But let's spend the last moments of the program talking about the open campus, of which you are the principal.
Yes.
Why an open campus? Why does UE see it necessary to have an open campus?
Well, I think there are several imperatives that would have led to the formation of the open campus. I learned when I came to the position that UE had that idea a long, long time ago, the idea of, you know, having something open. But there was no money for it at the time in the way they thought it might be done. And you know that UE, established in 1948, establishing St. Augustine and Caville in 63, and the open campus in 2007-8. When it established itself in 48, it saw the need to have some sort of presence in the countries. And the way it was able to do so with the resources at the time was to create extramural departments, so that you had departments growing in different countries across the jurisdiction. These extramural departments grew into schools of continuing studies. But even in the countries with established campuses, like Barbados, for example, when Caville was created, they also made sure that they had a school of continuing studies or extramural, so that people could go there to do certain courses that they might not have been able to take at the university. Now, when this Vice Chancellor, Professor Nigel Harris, assumed his position as Vice Chancellor, he went around all of the countries to speak with a number of people. He did consultations, and with Professor Carrington, who was the PVC then for non-campus countries, which we called us non-campus countries because we didn't have established campuses.
Right.
I think the message that was given to them by public servants, by the NGO people they spoke to, by educators, was that our countries in the Windwards, in the OECS, in the UE12, felt that we had suffered from not having an established campus, as Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad benefited a lot in terms of human capital from having a landed campus. So when the Vice Chancellor thought about it and he consulted with other people, they said, you know, we want to be able to offer more of UE. And so the concept of an open campus came into being. But the openness of it came about because right at that point, you had other countries having successfully established campuses like Open University in the UK, IGNU in India, it's a huge one, and serving their people more broadly because they could get programs to them virtually. Now, UE had established UEDEC, but UEDEC was using a teleconference system, and later promoted to video conference. But the countries still don't all have a video conference or the system. So the internet, the whole internet was taking off at the time, and that provided the opportunity for...
That's the enabler.
Exactly, the university to offer more people education. And they said, look, the way we can do it with the, because the economic recession hit right about that time. But the way we can do it is really to have that virtual campus that can then take the best of programs we offer, take that to our people. But more than that, because the schools of continuing studies and so on offer short programs, short courses that help our people to build certification, the open campus will have that component in it as well, and will really relate to communities and provide the short courses, what we call access courses, that will help people to gain, get ready to do higher degrees. So the campus then was conceptualized as a campus, a virtual campus with real nodes. The real nodes being the centers in each of the countries through which, to which people could still go, use the computer labs to take courses and programs that come into them. But the openness, the virtual part of it, means that you could be anywhere. With your laptop here, you could stay at home and you could access the programs as well.
You've been the principal since the start of the open campus, since it became the open campus. I know what you said about the extramural. And
because you have several heads before, but as a campus, since it was conceptualized as a campus, it started, 2007 was approved, and in the 2007-8 we started to work towards pulling it together, and it opened, it really opened up its doors seriously in 2008 as a campus.
Yes, you mentioned the internet, and clearly a lot of education now is being imparted online. Where are the gaps in your open campus? Where are they, and what are the challenges in bridging these gaps, in really using this medium, the internet, to get your programs almost 100%, if possible, online?
There are different aspects to that.
Yes.
With respect to...
I suppose it depends on the program.
Well, not quite. There's the aspect of developing the programs for online purposes. I'll talk about that. But there's also the business of connectivity. And the apps you would need to access the programs. So let's take the first part, developing programs for online delivery. Now, it's not, MIT and Harvard, they just suddenly put a lot of their stuff online, you hear. And you go look at it and you see, for example, in the MIT case, would be the series of lectures. So I could take my course in language acquisition, all the lectures that I teach face-to-face, and I could put that up and say, hey, I've put that online, you can go look at them. So you might read them, you might read the lectures and so on, and that's fine. So you read the content. That's not a real good way of online instruction. You have, we look at interactive models. So it's like you're going to have a person present, and you're going to have activities with multimedia things built in to help you to understand difficult concepts. And those programs have to be developed with that media, multimedia content in to shape the program. It has to have the content, which is the learning content, and it has to have activities and assessments and spaces for interaction between the coordinator or lecturer or teacher and the student, for students to work in groups and so on, activities for them to go further in the internet to do research, to access online library resources. So you have to design the course and develop it in such a way that you are giving the student the best of the experience. In some ways, it can be better than just my face-to-face, because I'm there present, you can ask me a question. But online, I have to anticipate what your question might be, what your needs might be. And so in designing the course, I have to put all that into it. Once I have that package, I can develop it, put it online, and you take it in the modules that it comes. You sit at your laptop and you can go on the internet to the Learning Exchange. The Learning Exchange is the exchange we use for our programs, and you can download that course, and you work with it. And you have an e-tutor. So there's a coordinator, the person overall responsible for the course development, who works with the e-tutor, who will help you to work through that material on a day-to-day basis. We try to manage, keep that a careful management system for our e-tutoring. So for every 20 students, every 25 students, you'll have one e-tutor. That means that e-tutor has to go on and connect with the students within 24 hours or 48 to make sure that there are no issues with the material and so on. Some students who are used to face-to-face and the warm body have found it difficult. They don't like it, and we've got a lot of criticism about that. Why can't we have the person and so on? Because they're used to going to the class and sitting down.
Yes,
They haven't yet bought into the full benefit or the extra benefit you can get from online. But what we do is we try to mediate that. Because we have now real nodes in the open campus, we say to heads, look, if you have a group of students who have difficulty with some concepts and they still want to be weaned from this warm body,
right,
you can have a tutorial group with them. We just have to charge a little extra to pay the tutor, but just to help them, give them that confidence and security
yes,
of understanding by letting them come to the site and having somebody give them a tutorial. But we use Blackboard Collaborate, which allows you to see the instructor in real time.
This is an application, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's really the system we're using to deliver. You can see everybody else in the class, and as a participant in the class, you can click on so that the tutor knows you're raising your hand. So the tutor might be in Jamaica,
right,
and you are here in St. Vincent, and you click on the symbol for hand raise. The tutor will see that and will say, okay, will you ask the question? And you can then press your mic and you speak, and everybody in the class in St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Trinidad will hear the question. And the tutor might say, well, does anybody have a response, or would they like to comment on the question? And you have it like a real class simulated in real time. And that's one of the benefits of it. Now, Blackboard has introduced certain apps that will allow a student to use their iPads or their cell phones to really get that class. So if a single mother has worked all day and she's running home to pick up her child, and between where she works and the bus, and she knows the class is going on, she might on
her smartphone,
exactly, and do that. So that's one of the pluses and the advantages of it. But we're just 4.5 years into the open campus. There are lots of things to fix. Developing a course is the cost of a truly interactive, good online course will cost about $25,000 to develop in the way that I told you. So, and it'll probably take about 6 months to a year to do it properly because of everything you have to do. And
all this time things are evolving as well. So
exactly, and you have to use. We use qualified people, lecturers at UWI who are experts in the field. They work with our curriculum development specialists to develop the course. The curriculum development specialist will get the content from them, understand what the point is, how they want it delivered, and then they will develop the interactive activities with that lecturer saying, yes, this will work, and so on.
Right.
So you have that constant back and forth and collaboration that will ensure that you get the content presented in the best way. So it takes some time, and so UWI has, in the established campuses, have a number of courses. So we are now in the process over the last 4 years to developing and repurposing courses for online development. There are some that are there already, but for us to offer the full slate, it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a lot of resources.
Money being the main one.
Exactly.
Professor, we'll continue to look at the challenges of the open campus and, of course, what the open campus has achieved.
Yes.
What it has achieved since 6 years, you said?
It's 5, actually.
5 years of its existence.
Right.
And we'll be into the last section of the program.
Already?
Already. So when we come back, we'll pick up
you.
on those things. This is Unrendered. I'm Tony Regisford, chatting with Professor McDonald. We'll be in our last segment when we come back, so don't go away.